Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul joined alongside Jack Weinberger and Robert Ziggy Ziegler. Producer Zach. Hopefully, who knows when Zach will be back at this point.
It's concrete, baby.
It's a concrete business. Hopefully, producer Zach is back soon. Please remember, you can like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. What's the number we said we're chasing down for the start of the season? Maybe 13? Is that a good number?
I'd say even maybe a little more.
13
would be great.
We'll start with 13 for now.
Unlucky number 13.
And remember, you can become a member by going to our channel homepage and clicking join. There will also be a link in the description to become a member that's sending you to that page. And of course, we appreciate everyone for listening on YouTube, interacting on YouTube. You can always catch us on audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you do get your podcasts, you can find this show. So last week we got into the division previews. We started off with the NFC East. Thursday, the AFC East video dropped. Today, the NFC West. The NFC West, and then on Thursday we'll have the AFC West come out. We always talk about these division previews. You know, a lot of work goes into these because there are just so many moving pieces in the NFL. And the more you dive into it over the course of the offseason, you're seeing how many different guys are being swapped in and out of different teams. And it's great for us to be able to learn more about each team as we get closer to the season with so much noise around, free agency and the draft. This kind of helps us to condense everything and get a better picture of what we're looking at. Jack, Ziggy, you guys good to go on this? Excited for a little NFC West talk?
How could you not be? I'm more than amped. I got my Hokie hat on today. I'm ready to go.
It's going to be tough to get me to dial in over the next few weeks because, of course, a few days ago, the greatest sporting event in the entire world started.
Yeah.
So football is going to be on the back burner for a little while. But
I don't have a drink in hand today, so I feel a little out of place.
Oh, do you know what Ziggy's talking about?
Yeah, the bike, right? Is it bike, some bike tour or the Tour de France? Is that it?
Okay, there we go. Jack knows something.
Is that what it is? Tour de France?
Ziggy's losing his mind on this. Ziggy's favorite cyclist is out this year.
Oh, Coots? No, wait.
You're close.
Sepp Kuss.
Coots. Okay, Coots is your buddy from Notre Dame.
Yeah, Coots is our buddy from Notre Dame. One of the first members of the Paul Farrington Show.
Shout out, Coots.
Around this time of year, we usually get a text from Ziggy that says, we just got it today. Join our Tour de France.
Wait, there's fantasy
league.
There's fantasy for Tour de France.
I'm a hardcore fantasy player.
Who would your number one overall pick be?
Tadej Pogacar, obviously.
How many miles is that? It's 300?
How many miles is what?
The bike race.
It's
Jack.
like a 3-week race.
It's 2,300 miles.
The Tour de France, I will say.
Oh, wow.
I woke up one day.
It is the single hardest sporting event in the entire world.
Oh, it's like a tour throughout France. Oh.
And elsewhere. They started in Italy a couple of days ago, but these guys are insane. They'll fall off the bike, break their collarbone, break some ribs, and just get up and continue riding over cobblestones, over mountains. Like, these guys are the toughest athletes on the planet.
Well, he used to try and get people to wake up in college to watch with him. And most of the time, every once in a while, you would get someone. And one day I woke up and watched the end of a race with them. It was actually really fun. It was exhilarating, the final stretch. I don't know if I could sit there for hours, but I thought it was a very much more enjoyable than you'd think watching the Tour de France.
How many miles do you think I would last on Tour de France?
Wait, do you have to ride with them?
Well, I start the race same time everybody else does. Same race, same mileage.
You could not make it through day one.
How many miles would that be? About 5? Actually,
how many miles is day one?
Well, what look the good
2,300 mile race?
Day one is 130 miles with 3,600 meters of climbing.
The elevation's crazy.
So
you would never last the elevation.
I'd last. What do you think? 2 miles on the first day, and that'd be it.
If you have to hang with them, they would dust you immediately. Your fastest bike pace couldn't keep up with them.
I think you'd be fine.
Yeah, what if I tried to compete to win?
You'd
like a mile. I mean, maybe not even.
You couldn't hang with them for a mile.
Yeah, you wouldn't be with them they'd be out in the first.
Their slow pace on flat ground is 25 miles an hour.
I think you could casually ride.
I bet if I ran, I'd beat them on bikes.
All right, Jack. Before we dive into this anymore, let's just get to the NFC West here. So it's going to be the same format as the other division previews. We'll start with the favorite, then the top challenger, the sleeper, and then the bottom feeder. Again, those are just the names that we assigned for all of these division breakdowns. It kind of works differently for each division because, the AFC North we're not saying that the Steelers, who would probably be the bottom feeder of the AFC North, or the Browns, they're much better than the Patriots.
The Browns are a bottom feeder.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see when we get there in a couple weeks. But for the NFC West, it's pretty obvious. We start with the favorite, the San Francisco 49ers. They come into last season. Remember, Brock Purdy, he was coming off that insane rookie season where he came in for Jimmy Garoppolo, led them to the NFC Championship game, wound up injuring his UCL against the Eagles, recovering his elbow the entire offseason. That was one of the big questions around San Francisco was, will Brock Purdy be as good? Can he live up to the hype that he showed during that rookie campaign, especially with a big injury, not much of an offseason for Brock? So Brock comes back and all he does is go 12-5, return the 49ers to the Super Bowl where they lose in heartbreaking fashion to the Chiefs. Now, again, remember, coming into this season, something that a lot of NFL fans might not remember is Dre Greenlaw tore his Achilles running onto the field in that Super Bowl. Do you guys remember the video of Greenlaw running out? It's really sad to watch. Fred Warner just hands over his head. So another big injury for San Francisco heading into this season. Linebacker depth could be a bit of a problem until Greenlaw recovers. Now, the big move for San Francisco this offseason is probably that they did not trade Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk's name is yet. Now, again, as of the recording of this podcast, no one's been moved. But that's been the big news for them so far. Couple key additions for them. They bring in Leonard Floyd. They're hoping he could be one of the best, edge rushers to match with Nick Bosa that they've had. They traded for Malik Collins from the Texans. Devondre Campbell comes over from the Packers. A couple more moves along that defensive line. On the other side of things, though, Ziggy was very, very much pointed out. Their defensive line took a bit of a hit when they lost Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell, Chase Young, basically all across the defensive line wiped clean for the 49ers. And then they drafted Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, the wide receiver. So our key question for San Francisco is with, the big losses across the defensive line. And I think that they actually brought in quite a few pieces where they're hoping they can replicate that production. Ziggy, do you think Brock Purdy will be able to elevate San Francisco to that next level in this upcoming season here?
I can see why the 49ers are so hesitant to trade Ayuk for exactly this reason. The 49ers last year had one of the best defenses in the NFL in nearly every metric. And that means not that Brock Purdy doesn't need to play well, but that there's a little bit less pressure on him, right? When you're counting on the defense to make a stop, they probably will. He didn't have to get into a million shootouts on his way to the Super Bowl. And I mean, we saw even in the Super Bowl when he struggled a little bit, the defense was able to take over, keep him in the game, and gave him an opportunity to win it all, even though they couldn't capitalize. Mm-hmm. So things are going to have to be different this year. I think it's good they're keeping the pieces around him because while I think Brock Purdy can step up, with the 49ers offensive line, it's going to be tough. It's going to be important that he gets the ball out quickly. It's going to be important that he can make quick, decisive decisions. And the way that you do that is by having players that are good and that you trust. So as long as they keep the right players around Brock Purdy, I think he's got the processing, the decision-making ability, and the arm to get the ball where it needs to go. But with a suspect offensive line, especially if Trent Williams misses more than a couple of games, he's going to need to be on his A game this year.
What's the deal with Brandon Ayuk? Isn't Ayuk going to... He'll be gone, right?
He wants to get paid big time. I think it's going to be a lot like what happened with Deebo Samuel, where it's protracted, it's painful negotiations, there's trade request rumors, maybe even an actual trade request comes in. But ultimately, Ayuk is more valuable to the 49ers than any other team. They're going to keep him around, I think. They have to.
You look at what this team has lost up front and what has made this team, obviously they're still a favorite in the NFC West and probably in the NFC. Mm-hmm. But what has made them so dangerous, of course, both sides of the ball, but has been that ferocious defense, especially up front. And that has taken a hit. On the offensive side of the ball, I think keeping Ayuk is huge. I think he's needed. Brock Purdy is very, very, very solid, and I've come around on him more so than what I've used to think. Like I've always said, it's the majority of it is these weapons and who he has around him. But Brock Purdy is a very good QB. But I think he's in a perfect situation as well, where he maximizes the potential of what he has around him because of how good he is, whereas other quarterbacks probably couldn't do it. But I think he's he needs Ayuk back, and I think he's fine.
He's fine. Yeah. The questions around San Francisco.
Like, I think he's like, he can elevate. He's like totally.
No, so you think he's capable of bringing them up another level?
Like,
I think he does too. At this point, I mean, just look at his numbers from last year: 5th in passing yards, 1st in basically every performance like rated metric, 3rd in touchdowns, 3rd in completion percentage among starting quarterbacks. When you watch Brock Purdy play, it's very clear that he's an above average. Although I think I had him rated like 17th in the league or something. But when he plays, he's a more than capable starting quarterback. Whereas in the past, if San Francisco lost their quarterback, a lot of times people would say, okay, whoever's coming in should be able to replicate with Kyle Shanahan, which honestly, I always thought was a pretty bold assumption. But if Brock Purdy goes down, I don't think Josh Dobbs, as much as I enjoyed the run last year with the Vikings, Brock Purdy is the glue of this team right now, even though McCaffrey's amazing, even though Kittle and Samuel are amazing. Like, if there's an injury to Brock, I all of a sudden take them out of the Super Bowl contention for sure. And I don't think I think that's something that most teams would experience when you lose your starting quarterback.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The bigger concerns for me would be the defensive side of the ball. And they're not even that big. Again, San Francisco is one of the more well-rounded teams, but that linebacker depth that I said before Greenlaw comes back, maybe when they were struggling last year, it was cornerback. Will a third cornerback step up for them? It's kind of little issues for San Francisco. But generally speaking, I think this team is ready to roll and should be the favorite in the NFC. We all agree they're the favorite, right?
Yes.
They are the favorite. Yeah, but I'll just say again, you have to be worried about that offensive line, because I don't think there's a single offensive lineman in the NFL that does more to cover up a line's weaknesses than Trent Williams. Because you take Trent Williams out of the equation, the rest of the guys, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, John Feliciano, Colton McKivitz. Like, those are not world beaters. Those guys get beat time and time again. If 36-year-old Trent Williams, something happens to him, it could get ugly fast.
Colton McKivitz struggled a lot last year on the right side, at right tackle there. And I can't remember what his Super Bowl rating. I know Trent Williams was like 3rd best out of all the players in the Super Bowl, but McKivitz, he struggled a lot of the season. You're right, Ziggy. That's the one spot on the offense where they should be fine. But yeah, if Trent goes down for someone who's getting, not just older, but really old, that could be a spot. We've seen, luckily, Purdy's mobile. Like Kirk, when we had injuries to the offensive line, became a problem. Purdy, I thought, in the NFC Championship game, showed off his mobility probably better than ever against the Packers. Like that won them the game in many ways. So that is a good point to call out, Ziggy. Okay, we'll move on to, this is going to be a fun team to talk about because there's Ziggy's boys out in LA, the Rams.
Ram it in, Ziggy.
I just remember.
Let's ram it.
I remember last season coming in, we're talking in the preview shows about the Rams, and they were rated 4th or 5th on ESPN in terms of which teams are most likely to get the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And everything you read about LA was just Matthew Stafford's decline, Aaron Donald's getting older, this team is just not what they used to be. And Ziggy was one of the only people I heard. We did a show with Ariel Epstein, and Ziggy pointed out, he said, I think the Rams are actually going to contend for the division this season. And we kind of chuckled at him. A lot of people did. But, Matthew Stafford was amazing last season, came out 4,000 yards, basically 24 touchdowns. Rookie class was sensational with Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, even along the defensive side of the ball with Kobe Turner and Byron Young. Those guys showed out. They go to the wild card round. Stafford returns to Detroit. Jack was at a bar watching that game with a bunch of Lions fans.
It was a great time.
And Matthew Stafford and LA probably should have stole it before. I think they had a big holding penalty, right?
I mean, I think they had back-to-back holding penalties.
Holding penalties that took them out of field goal range. And Detroit wound up escaping with the win there. Had LA won, they would have played Tampa Bay in the divisional round. And I'm taking LA in that. They're probably going to the NFC Championship game. So we were just a couple plays away from having a much different discussion about the Rams heading into this offseason, where, Aaron Donald's retirement is the thing that shocked, and maybe not shocked the Rams brass, but a lot of fans were surprised to see him walk away. And that leaves a pretty big hole in LA on LA's defense. I mean, obviously a huge hole. Aaron Donald is one of Ziggy's favorite defensive players ever, one of the best of all time. So let me ask you guys, did the Rams do enough to replace Aaron Donald heading into the 2024 season?
I think Donald's irreplaceable.
Yeah,
I mean that's
to try to replicate his production.
I like what the Rams did on offensively for Matthew Stafford and signing 2 offensive linemen, re-signing Demarcus Robinson, or solid wide receiver 3 in my eyes. And for me, this team it's kind of like the Jets, where you got Puka, you got Cooper Kupp, you got some good talent. You seriously do, but you got to just stay healthy. Cooper Kupp, injury history. Matthew Stafford, injury history. But you got a couple guys to block for him now. A couple new faces up front. I do if this team can stay healthy, this is a playoff team once again, even without Aaron Donald. But I don't think he's replaceable. But this team can win a playoff game even without him.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I like what the Rams did too, for the reason that Jack said. They know Aaron Donald's irreplaceable. So rather, I think, than trying to go out and do something crazy, like, say, going for Chris Jones, who they may or may not have been able to get, they said, all right, we're going to upgrade where we can. We'll draft Elijah Jones. He's certainly not going to be Aaron Donald, but hopefully he'll be all right. We're going to bring in Ernest Brown on the other side of the defensive line. We're going to try and hope that some of the rookies who looked really good last year, admittedly next to Aaron Donald, develop. And we're going to double down on what we know is successful, namely keeping Matthew Stafford upright and in the pocket. And the fact that Jack said, they signed 2 of the biggest guard contracts in the entire NFL.
Yep.
The Rams think that they will be competitive next year, right? You're not going out and signing Kevin Dotson and Jonah Jackson, who Lions fans will be familiar with as a pretty strong player, to huge contracts at $16, $17 million a year, unless you think you are a serious playoff contender. So internally in the building, they must think Stafford's feeling great. They're ready to compete. They trust a lot of these young guys. And if the development they're hoping for happens, they brought back Darius Williams from the Jaguars, which I think is a really good move for them because he fit in excellently. Cameron Curl, underrated, coming from the Commanders. There are a lot of exciting pieces on this team. If they develop like they think they could, they'll absolutely challenge the 49ers for the division.
Yeah, on the offensive side, like you guys said, they addressed the concerns on the offensive line, or they hope to have addressed them with the offensive line signings. But then on defense, so I'm not worried about offense with the Rams. I think that they're good to go. I expect Stafford to be, I think I've said this a few times, the best quarterback in the NFC next season, assuming he stays healthy. The bigger concerns are along the defense there. And you just said, Ziggy, they signed Darius Williams. They also signed Tre'Davious White. So he's, coming off the Achilles injury, but you're hoping that you could get, anything close to the all-pro production would be amazing. So there you got your cornerbacks, and Curl in the secondary was kind of a problem at times. They were young. Now you got more experience back there. And on the defensive line, when we were talking about replicating Aaron Donald's production, the 2 rookies, Kobe Turner, 9 sacks last year, and Byron Young, 8 sacks last year. Ziggy, great point that they were playing alongside Aaron Donald. Hopefully, though, they still played well. And
they were good players.
They spent their first 2 picks on defensive linemen. They went with the Florida State guys with Verse and Braden Fisk, even though a lot of people were unhappy about the trade up for Fisk. They put all their resources into the positions that they needed: offensive line, secondary, defensive line. And you can't really, can't get on them too much because they're trying to win. And I think Cowboys fans would have been thrilled if the Cowboys addressed the offseason the way the Rams did for a team that believes they're competitive.
Jared Verse is a dog. I was a big fan.
He was almost the top 10 pick. A lot of people thought he might go to the Jets.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that pick. I thought he was one of the better defensive guys in college football last year.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. And was it the Jets? I can't remember who I'm thinking of. Verse. Maybe this is the Falcons. But yeah, no, they got great value there. And then we'll see what happens with Fisk in the second round with that trade up.
I love their two offensive lineman signings up front.
Yeah, no,
with an older QB, I was a massive fan of those moves.
It's crazy though when you look at the rookie production. Like Kyron had 1,144 yards in 12 games last year, and Puka, he set the record, I think, with about 1,500 receiving yards for a rookie. Like that offense is fully loaded. They can go toe to toe with anybody. I agree with you what you said off the top, Jack. If they stay healthy, there's no reason the Rams can't make another deep run. They were the one team. Remember everyone going into Baltimore last year getting murdered? Like the Rams went in there, took that game to overtime. Yeah. Like they were a tough team that could play with anyone. I think that they're a very quiet Super Bowl contender. You probably wouldn't pick them, but like they're a sleeper pick. I don't even know if can you even call them a sleeper this year?
It's not as much as last year, but I think most people have completely written off this division. They shouldn't.
Oh, I'm still writing off yeah. I mean, maybe that gives away my prediction.
When you talk about winning a Super Bowl, they could definitely be called a sleeper.
Yeah, winning Super Bowl. Like, I trust Matthew Stafford. I think he can go on the road and win big games, and that's what I'm assuming they'll have to do.
They showed it last year. They really should have probably won that game in Detroit.
A couple big mistakes.
But there's the refs. God forbid the Lions couldn't lose at home in Ford Field in their first playoff game in 30 years. It couldn't happen.
Okay, so that was the top challenger, the Rams. Let's go to, I guess we're calling, the dark horse. I might switch it around here. Dark horse. You want to call? Ziggy, you're big on the Cardinals, right?
Yeah, I think the Seahawks team stinks.
All right. We'll call the Cardinals the dark horse here. The Cardinals started last season 1-8. I remember Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune even made a start. They beat the Cowboys, which was pretty funny. That was their one win early in the season. I think a lot of people remember that game. It was just shocking.
They murdered him, didn't they?
Yeah, they murdered him at home. I think it was week 3 or something like that. Jonathan Gannon, of course, in his rookie season as head coach. Once Kyler Murray came back, they went 3-5, and they looked way better with Kyler. You saw some flashes of the old Kyler Murray. I particularly remember how great he looked in the Philadelphia game that they won, even though Philly was in the middle of an unbelievable crash and burn. Still a good sign to see if you're a Cardinal fan. And they put a lot of faith. They showed that they're all in on Kyler because they had the 3rd pick in the draft, and you had Drake May, or 4th pick in the draft, and they had their chance to take a quarterback of the future. Granted, the other guys, the top 3, were gone, but they're rolling with Kyler Murray here. This offseason, a couple big moves. So then they bring in Sean Murphy Bunting. They make some moves across the defensive line. Jonah Williams comes in, tackle. A big loss, and one that I'm not particularly happy with if I were a Cardinals fan, was losing Marquise Brown, especially on a 1-year, $7 million contract to the Chiefs. Maybe part of that is just Brown wanting to play with Patrick Mahomes. I totally get that.
I wouldn't.
But across this, if you add Marquise Brown to this offense that now has Marvin Harrison Jr., they already have Trey McBride. I think that would have been a really nice piece for Kyler to have. So maybe you let they let go of your guy, Rondale Moore, Ziggy, after, years of scintillating production, as Ziggy predicted.
I was just about to say it's Rondale Moore season.
No, he's gone too. So they have a lot of cap space heading into 2025. This will probably be more of a rebuilding year. But Ziggy, you're really high on these guys. So how dangerous do you think they could be with a much better equipped offense heading into the 2024 season?
Yeah, when I sit back and look at the Cardinals, the way I see it is they had a tough year last year. There's no question about it. But they got better at basically every single position. They got better at quarterback, right? Because Dobbs and Clayton Tune went 1-8. Kyler Murray went 3-5. You put in more games of Kyler Murray, they'll get better. As he said, they improved at wide receiver. They added Justin Jones, so they improved defensive line. I know losing Marquise Brown, as he said, sucks, but I'll take Marvin Harrison over him all day. Yeah, they improved at tackle. They improved at cornerback. They improved at guard. They swapped out Marlon Mack for Trey Benson, Jeff Swain for Tip Riemann, Kyler McMichael for Elijah Jones.
All right. I'm not going crazy over Trey Benson and backup running back, but I get what you're saying.
My point, slight upgrades.
Everywhere around the board, they improved, whether it was by a lot or a little, and they drafted a lot of exciting rookies. So while I think this won't be the best team next year, this has to be one of the most exciting teams next year. And you have to keep in mind, right? While they had some horrible games, I think about that Browns stinker and that Bears stinker. As he said, they had some great wins too. They beat the Eagles. They beat the Steelers. They beat the Cowboys. They probably should have beaten the Texans. They played a lot of really good, close games. So you take a team that was competitive when the chips were down with a first-year head coach and improve at almost every position. That's a team that can make some noise.
What kind of noise are you thinking here?
I think they could make the playoffs and win a playoff game.
Jeez, oh my gosh, that's a lot.
I'll talk about my points in a sec, but Ziggy brought up something. But I just wanted to say, do you know that last year, if we had beaten the Cards and Pats at home, we had 11 wins?
Yeah, that's crazy. The Steelers, yeah.
That's nuts, right? And we lost to the Cardinals.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, the Cardinals came in and owned you in a must-win game.
They did crush.
No, they destroyed us.
Pickett got hurt.
Yeah, it was like a murking. I mean, I agree. I think they'll be better. I mean, I'm not super high on them. Obviously, a quarterback a lot of the time is everything. It's a massive improvement there. I think Kyler can keep them competitive in most games they play.
And he's healthy, finally.
Yeah, he's healthy. Yeah. He's good enough where they can be competitive in most games they play. Arguably one of the better quarterbacks in the entire NFL.
Or was that Andrew?
I don't hate Kyler Murray.
Okay. Our friend and former co-host, Andrew, just hates. He, for some reason, hates Kyler Murray.
He fixated on the video game thing, and he fixated on Kyler Murray being short and ignored that Kyler Murray's an accurate mobile passer.
Yeah. I mean, what was it, 3 years ago now that he was it 3 years ago, the MVP caliber season? I believe.
Yeah. And I get that we're removed a little bit from that.
Yep,
that's true. But it's not like he's played like a Deshaun Watson since that MVP caliber season, right? When he's come in and played and been healthy, he's looked solid despite having very little around him. And I don't know, like when Kyler Murray has put together healthy seasons outside of his rookie year, they've gone 500 or above. This team, if you extract Kyler Murray's record and spread it over the season, they have 7 wins. How ridiculous is it to think that with these improvements they could get to 9 or 10? I think not at all.
I mean, I don't think I loved Kyler coming out of college, but like when he started 9-0, and then last year when you really saw what a difference he could make, he kind of swayed me a little bit. Like he's a good professional quarterback.
He's another one. He's another one that's just got to stay healthy, and he has some trouble doing that. But
I think Marvin Harrison could be one of the elite receivers in the NFL. I think he's that good.
Oh, and he's better than anything. Like Hollywood Brown, people were really high on for a long time, but his production was never really there. Like you had some weeks where he would have a big catch, but I was never really satisfied with what he was. I mean, actually, he had a couple good. He had a solid season, but Marvin Harrison could be a legit alpha number 1 receiver. Hollywood Brown had moments, but he was never going to actually be that guy that defenses really need to key in a special way. And I actually like Jonathan Gannon too. People make fun of him because of his intro video, and he,
I mean, he's a weirdo, but
he proved he can coach.
Yeah, like I the Philly defense with him was fantastic, and last season completely fell apart. I thought the Cardinals got better as the season went on, and remember that defense last year going into the season truly had nothing. It was Budda Baker and nothing, and Budda wasn't even that good. So I think the fact that they even won a few games, and looked solid at the end of this, or looked serviceable at the end of the season, that is the concern, though. They were 31st in scoring defense, so it's not like he came in and rejuvenated them. But I'm saying they have better pieces heading into this season. Offensive line still a bit of a concern.
You've got a New Jersey legend playing for you if you're the Cardinals.
The Cardinals?
Max Melton.
Yeah, Max Melton.
I saved a cardinal for my cat the other day. My cat had a cardinal in his mouth.
Is that a sign?
If this were later in the season, that'd be a Jack Cat.
Well, no, I know. I thought it was a sign, so I bet the St. Louis Cardinals, and they got smacked that night.
So it must have been Arizona.
I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe this could be a Cardinals futures bet sign to win the NFC West.
Or maybe they'll just get mauled.
Well, no, but here's the thing. The cat had it in his mouth. It was about to die. Then I saved it. And it took off, looking better than ever.
Oh, so maybe.
So wait a minute, are they going to stink? Maybe start 2-4. Then you bet them to win the division, and they win the division. That could be it.
Yeah, I know that we sound a little like we're bullish on the Cardinals being better than last season. Ziggy is very bullish. I think me and you are both they should be better, but I'm not particularly concerned about them as a threat in the NFC.
Neither am I. No.
They just need a lot of young players they have a lot of young players and a quarterback we believe in, and a coach that, frankly, I do believe in right now. So much better skies for Arizona fans. Okay, I guess that leads us to the bottom feeder in the division, who it's a weird team to talk about because I don't have a lot of faith in the Seattle Seahawks, but their roster isn't terrible. They should be competing for a wild card this season. They came off a pretty surprising 2022 campaign where Geno Smith had a resurgence in his career. Start off past season 5-2, got off to the hot start. Everyone's kind of buying in again. They go 1-5 over their next 6 games. They played some tougher teams. Heading into this offseason now, they missed the playoffs. Pete Carroll's gone. They bring in Mike McDonald from the Baltimore Ravens, and Geno Smith is back. He's the guy, according to John Schneider, who Ziggy and I don't know if Ziggy was there, but he was in the Notre Dame press box a couple years ago when I was broadcasting a game. Didn't go say hi to him, but everyone was in awe of John Schneider. So maybe he knows what he's doing with Geno Smith coming into next season. Sam Howell's there. Maybe a bit of a quarterback battle. So the question I wanted to ask you guys, do you actually believe in Geno Smith? Frankly, like can Geno Smith win them a playoff game?
I think he'd take him to the playoffs.
Can he win a playoff game?
I don't know. Because the best I see him doing is a number 7 seed.
And then they play the Lions or the Packers.
Yeah, they play one of those guys. I mean, probably not. They remind me kind of like the AFC's or the NFC's version of the Steelers, where they go 9-8, 9-8, 10-7, get a 7 seed and get crushed. Like they got in a couple of years back, right? Lost to San Francisco. Last year they were 9-8, first or second team out.
I mean, San Francisco owns them right now.
Yeah,
they get not only. I feel like it's been 2 years in a row now where there will be a big Seahawks 49er game, and it's quote unquote big game on Thursday Night Football or something, and San Francisco just demolishes them.
I think Geno's a good quarterback. I think they have a decent plethora of weapons. I think they're a 500 level team. I think he's okay. I just don't see the state of this team currently winning a playoff game. I see.
Yeah, I mean, the problem,
7 seed. That's probably the ceiling.
Yeah, the problem with this team is they weren't even really a 500 level team last year, right? They had a negative point differential by like 40 points. Every time they played a good team, with the exception of the Detroit game, they got owned, right? Blown out by LA, more than blown out by Baltimore, slaughtered by San Francisco twice, played really close games against a terrible Commanders team, Titans team, and Cardinals team. Like, this team was not good last year, and they did very little to improve. You had some losses. I mean, Jamal Adams going doesn't really matter, but Bobby Wagner leaving as a leader hurts.
It's really good season.
Damian Lewis leaving hurts. Like, they took some losses. It's hard for me to see. I think Mike Macdonald might end up being a good coach, but Pete Carroll was a good coach, and transitioning just takes time. It's really hard for me to get excited about a team with a negative points differential that felt like they were lucky to get 9 wins without really making any major improvements to turn things around.
Mm-hmm. It's, people talk about Geno Smith. A lot of people would say he's still playing right now because that start to the 2022 season when he was awesome. He had, to some degree, an MVP conversation type of first half of that season. And I remember we were talking on this show, we really dove into it. Someone released an article and it was just talking about the luck factor for Geno Smith over those first 8 or 9 games and how he was by far the luckiest quarterback in football. And Seahawks fans for some reason really didn't. This is why they didn't like our podcast, because we were saying, this could come back down to earth. And then it did that second half of the season. He had the second most turnover worthy plays of anyone in the NFL. And they got crushed by San Francisco in that playoff game. Then in this season, again, very up and down. Geno's good enough to get to that 8 or 9 win mark.
Yeah.
But once you get there, I feel like they're sort of in quarterback purgatory. I don't necessarily blame them for keeping Geno this season because they were too far down in the draft to do anything aggressively. There weren't really options in free agency. But it's a tough spot for any franchise when Geno will win some games for you, and you'll be competitive a lot of the season. But no one really believes in Seattle that they can be anything more than a first round playoff team.
Also, except the Seahawks fan in the comment right now yelling at us for not believing in this team.
Yeah, and we again, not a terrible team. They have to. The defense needs to take some strides. The offensive line's been kind of crap for a long time now, and they have some new pieces coming in. But I'm not really getting excited about Lake and Tomlinson. Not particularly. I view this as the very similar team to the past 2 years, which will be in games and probably get crushed by the good teams.
I mean, if part of this too is definitely the state of the NFC West currently. When you're a third or a fourth best team, clear cut doesn't help. This team was playing in the AFC South, they could probably win that division.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're not gonna. Yeah, they're just not good enough to beat the 49ers. But if they were in the NFC South with the Falcons, I would say that they're probably going to compete for that division title.
They're
just still pick Atlanta, but
it's Pittsburgh of the NFC. That's what it is.
Yeah, a little bit. Although I don't know, I still wouldn't pick them to win most of the divisions in the NFL. It's just unfortunate for them that they have a juggernaut in San Francisco and get whooped by them every time. But yeah, like it's not like doom and gloom in Seattle. It's just kind of this like, it's exactly what Seattle is. It's kind of cloudy and raining a little bit, but that's the best you're going to get.
The occasional super sunny. You know, when I was there,
there will be a few games.
Like it was sunny for 3 days when I was there.
No, there are some games where when Geno's good, they are a very tough team to beat because DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, like they're a good team, good skill position players. It's just, can Geno be better than an average quarterback? And I think that he's just a solid option right now. He's a nice bridge quarterback. They just don't really have a bridge going to anywhere at the moment.
I'm in the same boat.
Okay, so why don't we do our predictions here for the NFC West? We'll start off with the non-quarterback player to watch in the division. So anyone that jumps out to mind to you guys, non-QB.
It's hard for me to pick someone other than Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I think that's
I'm not sure he will have the absolute best. There's a ton of players to pick. If you're talking about non-QB stars, this division might have more than any other. But I'm just so curious to see what Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. are able to do together. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s game, I think, is going to translate well to the NFL. Mm-hmm. And it's just so exciting. I mean, Cardinals fans can remember the feeling of getting a stud number one receiver in and having him just take off immediately and never look back. I think that very well may happen in Arizona again, and I can't wait to see it.
I'm going to go Puka. I'm going to go Puka Nacua. I want to see if last year was for real or some sort of weird fluke flash in the pan. I want to see how what this year looks like after that.
Yeah, Puka was awesome. Having 1,500 yards again would
we
had a weird season too, where he started off so hot and then kind of fell off a bit,
but then got hot,
and then got hot again at the end of the season.
But now Kupp's back healthy. You're hoping if you're a Rams fan for the whole year. I'm interested in Puka.
There are a lot of Rams you could pick. I think Tre'Davious White's a good one as well.
Kupp's a good one too.
Yeah, no, Cooper Kupp is staying healthy, but Tre'Davious White is someone that I'm excited to see his return from injury, because if he is, close to a cornerback, CB1, that's huge for that defense that desperately needs someone in the secondary to step up. There's a lot of guys who can, but they need someone to step up in that secondary. I like Tre'Davious White. I'm trying to think. So we did the Cardinals, we did the Rams. San Francisco, I'd probably be looking at. Oh man, San Francisco, maybe one of the corners. Leonard Floyd, I'd like to see him next to Nick Bosa. Like, I'm trying to get some of the deeper cuts than the superstars here. But yeah, I think there's a lot of guys, like you said, Ziggy, in this division to keep an eye on. I'm looking at Tre'Davious White. Preseason Division MVP. Now, this is interesting because the NFC West is one where, a lot of times we talk about the front runner and the quarterback. So Brock Purdy, but there's a lot of conversations about whether or not Brock Purdy should actually be considered an MVP given the talent around him. Do you guys have your MVP for the NFC West next year?
I mean, I was about to say McCaffrey, but I can't because I just destroyed him. So I can't say McCaffrey. I don't want to say Purdy either, though. But I feel like it's like Purdy is the answer. Is it non-quarterback or is it anybody?
Anyone.
It's anyone.
Season division MVP.
Yeah,
you're basically ruling out anyone on the Cardinals, right? Or Seahawks. You don't think Kyler?
You know what? I might just say Stafford because I don't want to say Purdy.
Okay, so you're going Matthew Stafford. How about you, Ziggy?
It's been a long time since we've seen this, but I'm not taking a quarterback. I think that we are going to get MVP caliber Cooper Kupp back this year. I know it's been a while. I know it's really, if you look at his career, it's just that 2021 season. But he's so good, and I think the Rams' offense, especially the defense getting a little bit weaker, is finally ready to come on the line. I think we might finally get the 2,000-yard season from Cooper Kupp, so give it to him.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick. I'm really tempted to take Stafford as well because talent-wise, I do think he's the best in that division. But I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. I almost took McCaffrey. I'm a little worried about him getting banged up, but I do think Brock Purdy this season is going. I think he's going to be excellent.
That's fitting.
To take Purdy?
Yeah, that's fitting from you.
Yeah, well, I think he's a really good quarterback who has a healthy offseason for the first time as a starter. I just think that that's going to help him a lot. Be a little more consistent over the offseason to have a routine plan playing as opposed to recovering his elbow. So I like Purdy. He was great last year.
You sound like you were for the Yankees, Notre Dame, and the Cowboys.
Yeah, right. With taking Purdy. Well, I'm taking Purdy. He was great last year. I feel like it's dumb not to. So there you go. The NFC West predictions ahead of the 2024 NFL season. we all have I'm sorry. We need the predictions, don't we?
Yeah.
As well.
I'm not putting the Cards out of the Seahawks. I'm going Niners, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals.
Niners, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals. Ziggy, how about you?
I'm going Niners, Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks.
Niners, Cardinals, Rams. So you are really bullish on everything.
I think this Cardinals team is going to be good.
I'm going to go with that's not the Rams, the 49ers, then the Rams, then the Seahawks and the Cardinals in last. There's still a lot of work to go for the Cardinals and the Seahawks, as much as we kind of trashed them a little bit there, but yeah, they will be competing for the 7th seed. They're good.
The Cardinals are a high variance team. I think they can finish second. I think they can finish 4th. A lot could go right. A lot could go wrong. That's just how it is when you've got a team full of rookies.
I can see some regression coming for the Rams too. Like, it wouldn't stun me if the Seahawks came in second in the division. I just don't believe them as anything more than a wild card exit.
You're one Stafford neck injury away from retirement.
Yeah, and if Stafford gets hurt, they immediately go to 4th in the division. It's like,
they probably go the worst from the NFC if Stafford gets hurt.
Yeah, no, he carried, despite having a lot of star offensive players, like, he carries that team a lot.
You're telling me the handsomest backup in the NFL, Jimmy G, can't get this team?
I forgot that Jimmy G. I forgot about Jimmy could keep that boat afloat.
I forgot about that also.
That's a good point, Ziggy. But still, I mean, anything more than to compete, they need Stafford. So,
Ziggy, who's hotter, Jimmy G or Tom Brady?
And that's the show.
And there's your show. The NFC. Who would you pick?
Jimmy G, probably.
The NFC West show. Remember, you can like, comment, subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with the AFC West on Thursday. Thank you guys for listening.